Yay! I am so glad you're here. It's November, which means spooky season is over, and I am both very sad because I love spooky season, but also very relieved because I was a little stressed. Baby, you have zoomies? Every time I set up the camera. Oh my gosh, every time. October was filled with a lot of, oh my goodness, a lot of big costume projects, and I think I'm still recovering mentally and physically from all of that. My workshop also hadn't recovered from Halloween yet, so I decided to ignore the mess and had to do a project that could be filmed elsewhere. So I thought it'd be nice to have just a calm, cozy little crochet video to kind of ease our way into November, because I do have some bigger stuff planned for this month, which will hopefully be fun. But November just feels like a weird in-between time. It's like it's sandwiched between two big themed holiday months, so it always feels like a weird limbo space that I never really know what to do with. I think last year I only had 2 videos in November because I think it's just such a weird time. Since the beginning of the year, I have been crocheting some granny squares to eventually make a cardigan. My hope was to have it done by October. That did not happen. As it turns out, crocheting 70 plus granny squares takes a long time. And I made good progress, but I also lost count of how many granny squares I've made. But if my last count was accurate, I think I still need about 30 more. So I thought we would just have a nice little, probably short, little crochet video to just kind of take a breath after October. So let's go take a look at what we've got and see how far we have to go. Oh my goodness, hello. First things first, I had to find all of the existing squares. I started this back in February or March and made these everywhere. Planes, trains, cars, my couch, and I tried to be good about putting them all away in one place. This bin is where I keep a lot of my yarn and unfinished projects, so it was the obvious choice. However, I won't be surprised when I inevitably find a rogue square after this video is done. Then I counted the squares to see how many more I needed for the cardigan. The original cardigan pattern I referenced was from Joy of Motion Crochet, and because it only lived on my phone for months, I decided to finally draw it out on paper so that I could more easily reference the shape to lay everything out. After counting and placing all of the squares I had, I figured out I still needed to make 28 to get to 70, which is what I thought I needed to make the cardigan based on the layout I drew. So I got started crocheting the rest of the granny squares. This star granny square pattern came from this shop on Etsy, and it was pretty easy to follow. It definitely had a learning curve at first, but I don't have a lot of experience making granny squares, so maybe that's why. Every square I made I marked off on the chart by drawing stars inside of the squares on the grid, and slid them all onto my blocking board, which also came from Etsy from this shop. Before this project, I'd never used one of these before, but it's really useful and helps the squares keep their shape, and now I get it. This was a multi-day process as each square took me roughly 30 minutes apiece. The second day saw more progress than the first, especially with my very cuddly helper by my side. And then things got shaken up a bit. We were recently able to have some things fixed in our house, and quite a bit of the work was in my workshop and my bathroom, so the mess that I avoided at the beginning got just 10,000% worse because everything had to be moved around. I'm happy that it's all getting done, but woof, was this overwhelming at times. So I retreated into my bedroom and the work pattern continued. Crochet star, crochet square, block it, mark it, lather, rinse, repeat. Many magic loops and stitches later, I put the last star in the last box on the grid. Which meant it was time to put them all together. So I laid them out on my table according to the pattern and started sewing them together. Assembling the sleeves first. I joined all of the squares together with a simple whip stitch, and when the first set of 6 squares took about an hour to assemble, I was shocked that it took so long. On the next 3, I tried sewing them together a bit faster, but it still took a really long time, and that's when it fully hit me just how long this was going to take. And it would be even longer still, because after wrapping the finished sleeve around my arm, I discovered that I didn't like how it fit at all. So I went back to the literal drawing board to figure out a different pattern for this sweater. I wanted to figure out a pattern that would have roomier sleeves and wouldn't require many more granny squares to complete, because I did not want to make 20 more of these things. Eventually, I came up with this. Super simple, 4 rectangles, and it'd be a sweater instead of a cardigan. The trade-off was that it'd be cropped and not a full sweater, but it was a trade I was more than willing to take at this point. To make my life easier, I undid some of the work on the sleeves that I had just completed so that everything would be ready for a hard reset the next day. And now here's a more tidy version of the scribbly pattern I drew. Would it work? In theory, sure, but I didn't know, and there was only one way to find out, so I got to stitching. With the help of Pearl, of course. It was slow going, but there was only one major mistake where I attached 2 rows together on the ends instead of along the length. But that was quickly fixed, and after sewing all 4 rows together, the entire back panel was complete. The next day was more of the same, sewing squares together to make rows, and rows together to make a rectangle. I actually, in the end, only needed 66 squares for this new pattern, along with 2 improvised half squares in the middle to make a hole for my head. Once the front panel was done, it was time to sew all of these big rectangles together. The front and back panels needed to be joined in the middle, leaving a space for my head. Then the sleeves would be joined to the sides. Everything would then be sandwiched right sides together, and after that, stitched along the underside of the sleeve and down the sides. I did all of that off camera because it was just more whip stitching the seams together. And when it was done, the squares were really bubbling up, and while that could be a look, I guess, I decided to steam the entire thing and try and flatten it out, and it worked so well. I also decided to add some cuffs and a collar, but apparently I didn't hit record for any of that, so it's time for the reveal. I love it. This is the first sweater I've made from scratch. Like, I've decorated sweaters before, but I haven't made the actual sweater part. So this process was new to me, but I'm so glad I tried it because now I kind of just want to make more. There are some goofy bits to it, like the collar is a little weird because I didn't really make like a proper neck hole. I think if it were a little bit tighter, it would fit better, but I don't know, kind of like the cowl. We're gonna call it a cowl, and cowl, like, good. I definitely learned a lot making this. For some reason, I feel like every time I made the granny squares, I did it a little bit differently. I'd follow the pattern and then get overconfident that I knew it by heart and would just go with what I thought was right. Turns out I was missing a stitch every time. When I looked back at the directions, there's one particular stitch in every round that I was missing. I don't know how they still worked, but it did. And honestly, I couldn't even tell you what one was missing off the top of my head. I just remember looking back at the pattern toward the end there and going, oh. As you saw, I did switch what kind of pattern I was following to make the actual sweater itself. I couldn't find the directions to the pattern I was referring to at first. I don't know if it wasn't free anymore But I messed up the pattern that I was referring to at first when I drew it onto the paper. I don't know how. I don't know what happened there because the squares did not match up to the one that was in the actual picture on my phone. So I don't know how I messed that up so badly, but it did not match. The shape didn't match. But after putting all of the work into making 70 of these squares, technically 71 because I did 70 in 2 halves. So I had 2 extra squares left. One of them is on pearl.
Oh my, oh, she's stretching. Oh, hello. Do you know how cute you are?
I'm glad I started over and kind of Frankensteined my own pattern. And if I ever wanted to add more to the bottom to make it a bigger sweater this way, I can. I was going to add a trim like I did to the sleeves and the collar to the bottom, but I frankly didn't feel like it. It would have taken so long. I started to, and after an hour of crocheting the trim on, I wasn't even a quarter of the way around, and I said, doesn't need it. And this way, if I want to make it longer, I can. And because I kind of ended up mishmashing my own pattern together for how to put the squares together, I did put that in the video, but I'll put it in right here again if you want to screenshot it and save it for your own project. It's just 4 rectangles. I can wear anything from an XL to a 3X depending on what the garment is. So that's what fits me. So if you want to make your own doing what I did, here it is. Something else I learned, steaming the garment. A little bit of a pain, absolutely necessary. If you steam it and you kind of pull as you go, it actually provides more room by stretching it out a bit and flattening all of those bubbling seams from joining them together. And it made a huge difference in both the look and the fit. So I had to set my laziness and my hatred for ironing things aside and steam the whole thing, but it was really worth it in the end. So if you try it, I recommend doing that. The cuffs and the collar, a little goofy, a little wonky, but it's very fitting. But that's okay. I match my table. I don't think there's anything I would do differently. This kind of worked out pretty well. I think the only thing is the collar. The collar's a little wonky, but honestly, not that mad about it. I really love it. It's my first sweater. I'm really happy with it. And I think it's good luck because when I took Pearl outside earlier, I saw a shooting star and I was very excited. This is now my shooting star sweater and I love it. If you like it too, you can let me know by hitting the like button. And if you want to see what I'm doing next and join the channel, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to know when I post, hit the notification bell. YouTube will let you know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!